All right, then, Nigeria's crude oil revenue has continued to nosedive as the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries newly released monthly oil market report for September 2022 reveals that the country's crude oil output fell to 900,000 barrels per day last month. According to OPEC's report, Nigeria's crude oil production dropped from 1 million barrels per day in July. This is the price of the country's crude grade at the moment, also which dropped by about 10% within the space of 1 month. And despite the continuous rise in demand for OPEC crude, Nigeria's low output puts its earnings at risk as the country has been unable to benefit fully from the rise in demand. Let's delve into the conversation and get some insights. Our senior energy analyst, Stirs Business, Noel Ukodi, joins me via Zoom. Noel, thank you so much. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's start with OPEC's quota, which we've been unable to meet. But I think it's not just Nigeria that hasn't been able to meet OPEC's quota at this time. But our case seems to be very peculiar. What do you think? Generally, what does this mean for us? Let's start that way.
Okay. Thanks to Lopez. So like you said, Nigeria isn't the only country that's not meeting the OPEC quota, but we're by far the worst. So we haven't met the quota once since in 2022. And for the implications, that means lower export revenue. As we're already saying, we've seen the exchange rates go to 700 naira at the black market. And that's because the CBN is not earning enough dollars to defend the naira. So we're seeing that we're not earning enough export revenue from oil. So that's affecting our dollar reserves and the exchange rate. It's also affecting government revenue because government gets earns revenue from oil and non-oil. That's taxes. But at this point, we're even earning more from taxes than we are from oil. And before, like in the past, oil used to be, in fact, we didn't even need taxes because we had so much oil. But those days are gone now because our production has dipped to below 1 million barrels per day.
It's really sad because when I look at this time where we're supposed to be making more money, we're on the other side. But now the issue is back to crude oil theft, which you've spoken about before now, and I'm sure you've been on this platform to talk about it. But this time around, it seems like government needs to fasten its belt because it seems like if we don't do something about crude oil theft at the moment, it might just eat us up as a country. So with the efforts being made at the moment by the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, by the military, and all that we are seeing, you're a player in this sector. Now, what is your assessment? And do you think, let me use the regular one, do you think there is light at the end of the tunnel?
So I always like to remain hopeful because at the end of the day, the issue of oil theft, it just boils down to finding the people responsible. But on the one hand, while we have efforts, like you said, from the NNPC, the Ministry of Petroleum, and the military, is still getting worse. Like we haven't seen any improvement yet. So I'd say that the light at the end of the tunnel is still pretty far away. And also just looking at how the theft is even happening. So from the point of production, which is like where pipelines are vandalized and broken into and oil is stolen. But also at the export terminal, where even after the oil has been packaged to be exported, we're still having issues of missing oil. We're seeing tankers on the high seas that nobody can trace their source from, and they don't have papers, and just all these issues just make it seem like the issue of theft is much bigger than we can even appreciate right now.
Indeed, I agree with you because I'm also worried about those that even buy the stolen crude because someone is buying this. They don't just steal and take it away. So they buy it to whether refined locally or whatever. So it looks like an organized crime one way or the other. What should also be done, looking like maybe partnership between Nigeria and countries we suspect to be buying some of these products? What could happen?
Yes, so I think majorly the responsibility still lies with Nigeria. We need to plug the leakages. We need to find out where our oil is being stolen from and taken to these other countries, because it means that it's passing our borders and getting to these other countries. They're not coming here to take it or steal from us. And on the other hand, the NNPC has said that oil that is going to be exported from now on they're going to have serial numbers. So when they get to the location or where they're supposed to be taken to, if, like, for example, if we're exporting oil to Belgium, when it gets there, they're supposed to check to see if there's a serial number or a code or something that says that this oil is verified. But all these efforts, as nice as they are, the responsibility still stands with Nigeria, because it's our oil being stolen. We're the ones being affected. These other countries are not being affected at all. So we have to just make sure that we plug these leakages from our own system.
Well, I'm now thinking that if we were to be a refining country, we have refineries functional, maybe some of these issues would also be minimal. Maybe we move our crude directly to our refineries and we refine and we sell products to Nigerians. According to the NNPC, the Port Harcourt refinery should be on stream before the end of the year or maybe first quarter of 2023. We also expect Dangote refinery to come on stream. But some are saying this is not the final solution to this problem. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. This is not the final solution because, like we said, if you look at how the oil is being stolen, so it's stolen from pipelines at the point of production. And so to even get it to the refineries, it means that you have to produce it, then take it to the refineries. But now with the kind of the level of theft that we're seeing, some pipelines are being shut down, companies are reducing their production, because when there's vandalism along the pipeline, it means that the company has to stop production to fix whatever is wrong. And even that stopping for however long it takes, that halting production, it affects how much they could produce and how much revenue they could be earning. So even if we have refineries, it doesn't fix the issue of oil theft. There's still that incentive for criminals to break into our pipelines and steal oil for themselves, because the refineries are not going to make them money or make them the money that they are making from stealing oil. So that's not a really good solution.
Can that help address the talks around subsidy? Because I was speaking to an analyst and he told me, no, that won't really solve subsidy issues totally too. Noelle, what do you think about this?
So Nigeria's subsidy issue is unrelated to anything actually, because right now, even if we had refineries, it doesn't mean that petrol will be cheap or it would have anything to do with the subsidy. It would just mean that we'll have a different supply source. Rather than importing, we're now producing locally. But the subsidy is just the difference between the market price of petrol and the price that the government wants us to buy at, and that's what they pay as subsidy. So even if it was locally produced, the only thing that will be saving is the cost of importation, which is the shipping cost. It doesn't mean that petrol will be significantly cheaper or there will be no need for the subsidy anymore.
So does it mean that we might have to continue like this till the end of the year? What is the outlook for the oil market? Some say the price of crude will still continue to hover between $90 and $100 despite all of these challenges. Don't forget, Russia and Ukraine crisis is still on the other side.
Exactly. So oil prices are expected to stay high up until 2023. The US is trying to, and G7 countries, they're introducing a price cap on Russian oil by December. But even that isn't going to fix the issue. Oil is still going to stay high, and that means Nigeria's subsidy bill is going to stay high. And if we don't get our production in check, that means we're still not going to be making money from the higher oil prices, and it means that we'll just be spending more on subsidy. I mean, like last month from the FAC report, we saw that NNPC spent 100% of its revenues on the petrol subsidy. That means Nigeria did not make, even the NNPC itself did not make even one kobo from oil or gas last month. And that's scary and terrifying, to be honest.
Let's shift our conversation to talk a little bit around gas, which many say that Nigeria is more of a gas nation even than crude. Talking about our proven and, of course, unproven reserves of gas. But if I'm to ask you, how can we maximize this potential that we have? Where's the key to unlock the gas, the positives in the gas space? Please tell us.
Yeah, so you're right. Nigeria has more gas than oil, and we have top 10 gas reserves in the world, and we are not even using it like as much as we should. But one of the major issues is that it doesn't make commercial sense to produce gas locally in Nigeria. So gas production or gas supply in Nigeria is subsidized, or there's a price cap on it, not subsidized, sorry, there's a price cap on it. So that means that domestic gas sold within Nigeria can be sold above, I think it's $2.50, and that is significantly below the market price. So that means that gas suppliers or gas producers, which are also oil producers, they just focus on oil and ignore gas, because oil, there's no cap, they can get their full money, but with gas, they have to sell within the limit. The only way they can make money from gas is if they sell to the NLNG, Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company. So we have to make sure that the commercials make sense to encourage gas producers to actually invest and harness Nigeria's gas resources. Because if there's no profit incentive, and there's no incentive for anyone to develop Nigeria's gas assets at all. I think that's the major problem.
We see the NNPC making lots of moves, immediately it's a limited liability company accountable to 200 million Nigerians. So a lot of expectations from the NNPC at this time. I don't know, let's talk around what's been happening since that date where there was that rebranding or relaunch of the NNPC. Have you seen that, that profit, what word is appropriate here now, but have you seen that profit-driven kind of company that you expect from the National Oil Company? Are you seeing that move by the Mele Kyari-led NNPC?
So no, we're not seeing that move yet. And that's one major reason is just that the NNPC is still funding Nigeria's subsidy. So how can they make profits? It does not make sense. There's no way for them to do that. Like I said, last month, they spent 100% of their revenues on the subsidy. So they couldn't even keep anything for themselves. If we want NNPC to be profit maximizing, the first thing that needs to be done before any other conversation is removing the subsidy removing it from their books, and just making so that they can make money and use their money to invest, increase their capacity. But right now, everything they make is just going to the subsidy.
Well, in removing subsidy outrightly, let's talk to ourselves as Nigerians now, would not be that easy. We are talking about selling PMS for above 500 naira, or close to 500 naira, looking at the market rate, or looking at the price of crude at the moment. We know what's happening to inflation, 20.52% at the moment. Unemployment rate in Nigeria is above 30%. It's not looking good at all. And we now take off subsidy. For me, I think the gradual removal will be a way to go. But outright removal of subsidy, even the gradual removal should also come with incentives and should come with, activities to cushion the effect of that hike. Because definitely there must be increases in price of foods, transportation, and all of it. Your reaction to this?
Yes, thank you, Tolulope. That's your spot on. So I think that, the government has announced that they intend to remove the subsidy by June next year. But I think that what Nigerians will be expecting to see, besides an announcement of the date, will be the steps that they intend to take to remove the subsidy. So I would have expected that we will see the kind of benefits that they'll be giving to Nigerians in place of the subsidy to cushion the economic hardship that people are going to face, because from transportation to electricity to businesses, homes, everybody's going to be affected when the petrol subsidy is removed. And we need to get a plan from the government, because for most Nigerians, one major issue is trust. So we know that the government can't afford the petrol subsidy anymore. But the thing is, for most people, we don't know, we're not sure that when the subsidy is removed, that the money will be used to develop Nigeria or invest in healthcare, education, roads. We're not sure. So we need to have that assurance, and we need to see a document stating the things that are going to be done to cushion the blow for Nigerians, how it's going to be removed, if it's a phased removal, if it's an abrupt removal, so people can prepare and just know that the government has their best interests at heart.
Exactly. No, that I think is the way to go. It's a dicey situation because you see some countries just biting the bullet and just, doing what is right. So let's wrap up this discussion on this note. If we remain like this, business as usual, we continue to flow with this high crude oil price, we continue to dwindle our production, what are we expecting from Nigeria's oil and gas sector, which still remains the mainstay of our economy?
Well, I think that would be a very sad picture to paint, but it won't be anything good. So if oil prices remain high, our subsidy bill is going to keep rising. Our earnings from oil are going to keep depleting. The government is already borrowing money, and our debt servicing has exceeded our revenues already. So we're already going down a slippery slope. And if we don't improve, it means that things are only going to get worse. And for the oil and gas industry, it makes it harder for us to attract investors. One of the major aims, or the major aim of the Petroleum Industry Act, was to attract investors to Nigeria's oil and gas sector. But with vandalism and thefts, even with the PIA is not even enough to incentivize anyone to invest in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Even gas, because Europe is in need of natural gas and Nigeria has gas. In fact, delegates from Europe have come to Nigeria to ask us or to talk to us about our gas resources. But now we're seeing that even gas is being affected by vandalism. And yeah, honestly, we need to fix the situation quickly. If not, we're not going to end up anywhere good.
Well, it's sad, but that's the truth that you've just said. Well, we'll keep a tab on this and, of course, continue to follow up with all of this analysis surrounding the crude oil market and, of course, OPEC's report. Thank you so much, Senior Energy Analyst at Stairs Business. Well, Okodi, thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate your time.